just barely coming out of foreclosure, just got our mortgage redone, just to go right back into it. So my nervous system is all over the place. And I'm asking, like, why, God? Like, what? I mean, we just pulled this out. What are you pulling this back in for? And we borrow from our friends. We borrow. We survived in 6 months. We're borrowing the mortgage payment. We're thinking we just got to make it hang on 6 months. 6 months comes, 6 months to the day, I reach out to the bank and said, hey, it's been 6 months. Can we get us our money? And said, no, actually, yeah, they gave us $40,000. And said the rest of it they were going to keep for penalties for damaging the MasterCard brand.
All right, welcome to another yet amazing edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. And I am Dr. B. I'm your host. And man, something about doing these shows just rejuvenates me. I just got done with, I was just telling Colin, I got done with doing a web class that took an hour and it ended like a half hour ago. And I was like, ooh, I got to get going ready for the next one. And then soon as before the show, when I talked to our guest, that I started talking to Colin, I just got, man, I can't wait to do this show. And all my energy just came back and got excited again because the journey to freedom is special. The journey to freedom came from me going to a trusted leadership seminar that I did with a guy named David Horsager. And I've interviewed him on my Living Boldly with Purpose podcast, and just an amazing individual. And talks about how we begin most of our conversations, and we start out with trust, and whether we trust an individual or not right away can determine that relationship. And so this incredible, he's probably one of the world leaders on trust leadership. I go to this seminar, it's got 500 people in the room, and there's 30 folks of color in the room. And even less Black men in the room. And so I go home and say, how can I make a difference? How can I take this information, because our community somehow is not running in the circles that would go to this event in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or wherever the heck we were in Minnesota, that would say, this is something that's important. And so I came back, and that was birthed the Journey to Freedom podcast that said, okay, how do we begin to talk about some of these issues? And, as I was praying about it, and, I said, God, I just want to work with people of color. I think this would be great. And then it came super clear to me, you need to work with Black men. And then I said, well, Lord, I don't know if I want to work with Black men, because Black men are hard. They can be tough to talk to. They got their own opinions, and they can, but what I've found over the last 175 episodes, that I was absolutely in the right spot, that I have been able to find from all walks of life, successful Black men that have stories, that have been through stuff, and then have come out being able to make a difference in people's lives. And then what's so neat about the story is I get feedback from people who've watched the episodes and seen the episodes, is like, there's now like a renewed belief that if he could do it and go through that, I haven't gone through that. There's no reason I can't do that. Whether I'm talking about a physician, an attorney, or an actor or an athlete, or, whether they're Super Bowl folks or NBA folks, or, I did Ronnie DeVoe for New Edition. I mean, we've had so many just incredible shows of what people's lives have been like. I did a guy who, he was in prison for 19 years, and it happened to be that he was in jail when the crime was committed and was still in prison for 19 years. You tell me how that works. I mean, it's just, and wasn't bitter, and has come out and has done some amazing things. And so today, as I was talking to Colin, said, what are you excited about? He's excited about his business and the momentum that it has, and the things that he's going to be able to do, and not only that, but the people that he's going to be able to help, and the communities that he's going to be able to impact and to be able to do. And so he's just, I would say I'm the luckiest person, because I got all 176 of these people that I got to ask selfish questions to, because I knew it was going to help my life. And today is not going to be any different. I'm going to ask Colin the questions, not that I hope that you guys would want to know as well. but the ones that I know that are going to springboard my business and my life and the things that I do and the things that he's been able to do and the things he's been able to accomplish that have made just an impact already, and the things that he's ramping up to do. You guys are going to just be so excited to see, wow, there's another person that I can look at that I can say. And most of our guests, and I'm sure Colin the same way, is, if you really wanted to reach out and contact them because you had a specific question, I have yet to find one of my guests that would say, absolutely not, you can't talk to me. It doesn't matter whether they're multimillionaires or they're in the community making a difference. They know that in order to make a difference, they need to be available. And so just so neat that you're on, Colin. Thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for your willingness to take your time on a Friday when, as we're recording this, it's a Friday and it's just, it's a beautiful day outside. And, he happens to live out by the ocean, so he could be running out and, doing ocean things, but today he's spending it with us. So thanks for being on. Please start with your story. Tell us who you are. I think that's what people love to hear, more of who you are than, that kind of stuff. So thanks for being on and give us your story.
Yeah. Honored to be here, Dr. B, and thank you. I didn't know I was going to have such a latitude to say, someone tell your story. I'm 63 years young. I'll be 64 here in a couple of months. And so I have a lot of life, right? And so I'm going to try and think up the highlighted parts that I think really, really shaped my life, right?
Okay.
I grew up, I was born in Washington, D.C., but went with my parents to Jamaica. My dad was Jamaican. My mom was from Virginia when I was at the age of 2. So I grew up in Jamaica until I was the age of 9. And it was a very different culture in Jamaica. We walked to the schoolhouse that's on the hill. There's maybe 12 people in the class. And then my dad and mom left Jamaica, left my sister and I with my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, and my younger brother, who was only 2. They took with them to California. I think that was like my first abandonment wound that I recognized through life, that I was thinking to myself, well, what's wrong with us? Why aren't we going? We didn't understand, at 7 and 6 and 7 at the time that, my dad was going to take the boards, and he had to go and trying to raise the family. And, it was too expensive to take all of us. So I just remember that was kind of like a troubled time. But my grandparents were amazing. My grandmother was very loving and my grandfather was very stern, but the reason why I'm sharing that, because we fast forward to our parents finally called for us, and we came here to the States, and here you have 2 Black, my sister and I, we have this heavy Jamaican accent, and we're thrown into, this school system. And at the time, we first landed in Los Angeles, but stayed there for a very short period of time. My dad and mom bought a house in the San Fernando Valley in Sherman Oaks, California. So now you have 2 of only, I think, 4 kids of color in an all-white elementary school.
Yeah, I was going to say San Fernando Valley, because I know Southern California very well. And you said how old you were. Yeah. I can't imagine you're in LA where it's, there is a community of folks of color. Yeah. The San Fernando Valley, not so much.
No, not so much. I mean, to be honest with you, we did go to school in LA for a little while, and it was, even with the Jamaican accent, we got chased home all the time. It was like somehow we just stood out, and that wasn't a good thing back then. Mm-hmm. Then we even stood out even more, because that's the first time. Because in Jamaica, if you've ever been there, you have all colored Jamaicans. You have Indian Jamaicans, Japanese Jamaicans, Chinese. So everyone has a Jamaican accent. Everyone thinks the same. You look the same. You don't think anything about it. Coming to, San Fernando Valley, an all-white school, coming with this, heavy Jamaican accent. And because we kind of had, our schooling was so, concentrated, that all the books that they were reading, I would I read that book. And I felt really smart, but also realized that was the fastest way to get alienated by all the other kids. So now you have a heavy accent, you're Black, you don't look like anybody, and you're raising your hand, because that's how you were taught to raise your hand and answer questions. So it was interesting. Within a matter of probably by 4th or 5th grade, my reading level started to retard. I started to realize all of a sudden, my I remember my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Parks, sweet lady, I still remember to this day, because she took pity on me, because if you know anything about Jamaican men, and your dad's a doctor, the last thing you want to hear is that your kid is reading below school, age level. So I didn't know the difference. I was just trying to fit in, but I realized that I went from being super outgoing, super smart, to actually kind of dumbing myself down. And my dad, God bless him, the best way he only knew how to try and teach me how to make sure that I could read effectively. Every Sunday, he would tell me to go get the Sunday paper and bring it in and start reading the Sunday paper out loud to him. And of course, I'm reading words now I've never even seen. So every time I stumbled over a word, he would smack me on the back of the head and go, "What are you, stupid? What are you, stupid? It's so-and-so." Unbeknownst to him, but unbeknownst to me, that's like Pavlov's theory. When you start, when you anchor in a term and a thought process and a belief system, you don't realize how that can affect you later, right? So academically, I struggled in school. Super good athlete, not so good student. And I started to believe that I was dumb for a very, very long time. For a very long time. I went through so basically, went through school. I graduated high school, went to junior college. Then my dad went to Howard University. And so, I was the oldest son. So in my dad's mind that I was going to be the next dentist in the family. Academically, first I didn't want to be a dentist. I couldn't stand going to the dentist. But that was kind of like the predisposed thing that I was told that's what I was going to do. And I did my best to live up to those expectations. And so, had barely a C GPA. And then I go to, my dad says, "Okay, I'm going to get you into Howard." I go to Howard, and now it's culture shock again for me. So now you have a Black kid that grows up in a predominantly white community, even though they started busing kids in the 70s, but it was predominantly white. And then I went to an all Black university, feeling completely out of place again.
Oh my gosh! Yes, of course.
Because I had the big afro and I was wearing the surfing clothes and that kind of stuff, and it's like culture shock city. And lo and behold, to me, I just felt out of place. And I wanted to come home within the first semester, and of course I wasn't allowed to. But I still noticed that I still was struggling in school. And my parents got to the point where like, "Man, we're not paying for school if you're not getting A's and B's," which I wasn't. So I decided that I was like going to come home for spring break, and I wasn't going back to college because it wasn't my thing. And my brother, my sister had already graduated from college. My younger brother is now in college. And so I'm the only one in my family that doesn't get a college degree. And that's like the badge of shame, right? What I learned later, so, to labor into the thing, what I learned later about myself is that every job I had as a young teenager or in my young 20s, I got fired from because I was not employable. I couldn't check the clock and come in at 8 o'clock, 8 and leave at 5. And that's when I realized that I was an entrepreneur, that I wasn't made to be, to work a job as an entrepreneur. So I left school, and I started to decide I was going to be, my brother said, "Hey, why don't you go do loans?" And I was like, "Loans, like mortgages, like you just give people money and they pay you." Never heard of it, but I went and got a suit and went to this company and interviewed and said, "I want to be a mortgage broker." And the guy said, "How much money do you want to make?" And I go, "I don't know, $50,000 a year." Back then, I thought that was $1 million.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right. And he said, "You're hired." And I thought I didn't realize it was a full commission job and that I had to learn how to do it. But I figured I'm excited.
Hey, it's Dr. B, and let me ask you something just here real quick. Are you tired of doing the same thing over and over and not getting the results you want? Are you serious about making some changes this year that will impact you in a huge way? Maybe you're putting out content right now and it's not turning into customers, or maybe you're uploading videos, but you're not sure why or how it's even going to help. I've seen a lot of people that are making a whole bunch of cold calls to the wrong people, and no one's answering. No one wants to talk to you. It might just be that you're just doing what you've been doing and crossing your fingers hoping it finally works this year. But let me tell you what, that is not a strategy, and it will continue not to work. That's why I created the Podcasting Challenge, and it's coming up fast. In just a few days, I'm going to walk you through the mindset, the tool set, and the skill set you need to create a powerful podcast. That's right, a podcast. You won't believe what a podcast can do. One that builds real value and creates new clients. And if you grab a VIP ticket, you'll get to join me for a daily Zoom Q&A sessions where I'll personally answer your questions and help you tailor everything to your goals. This is your moment. This is your year. Go to thepodcastingchallenge.com right now and save your seat. The link is in the show notes and the description. Thank you for watching these podcasts. Now let's get back to the conversation.
Lo and behold, for 25 years, that became my career. That's where I made my first $1 million in the mortgage business. And I was good at it. And I loved doing it. It was my passion. And I ended up building my own mortgage company. Married my third wife, which is my current wife, which is for 25 years we've been married. I already had 2 previous daughters from my previous mother, and then a son. And then my wife had 2 sons. And so we had a blended family. The mortgage business is taking off. I'm doing extremely well. We had a couple offices, and I'm doing my thing. What was suffering was, my health. I mean, I was driving, going to work, having a frappuccino at lunch, eating out every day. So physically, I was not the specimen I am today. I was actually in pretty bad shape, but I was doing well financially, and life was good. I came into the mortgage business at 18% interest rates. People were begging us to give them loans. I went through the 09, the 1990s crash, no problem. Everyone's talking about the crash of 2007, and my ego told me, I've been through it all already. I've been doing this for 20 years. It can't be that big of a deal. We had a little bit of money put away. I'm now living in the $4.2 million home in Hermosa Beach by the beach. I think I have life by the ass, excuse my French. And the bottom falls out of the mortgage industry. Yep. And the thing is that when you have a single source of income, no matter how much money that is, right? And I want to say the mortgage company was probably doing maybe $10, $12 million a year. When your income stops overnight and you realize, is it going to start again or what? Is it going to start again? And realize this is when you saw the whole world panic, right? The banking system completely imploded. And even though I was still trying to do loans and still trying to figure out to make people happy, how to get people into houses, the scariest part for me, Dr. B, was I woke up one day and went, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing I've ever known how to do that I was really, really good at.
Yeah.
And so you talk about identity. That was my identity. And when you take the passion away from something that you love doing, and then you have no other skill set, you have a $15,000 mortgage and cars and all that kind of stuff, and the money's not, the bank account's dropping by the day. I was terrified. I was not terrified as much as losing all the stuff that we were losing. I was terrified that I had no direction. I didn't know what I was going to do. How was I going to make a living? Yeah. And that, interesting, was where kind of God led me into a direction that I didn't even see coming. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling you that I wasn't as healthy as I could have been. I was a type 2 diabetic. I watched your journey, reversing type 2 diabetes. Love it. Sleep apnea, high blood pressure. My mother died of a massive heart attack at my age now, at 63 years old. My dad dies from diabetes-related heart failure and kidney failure. So I'm thinking I am now repeating the family curse. And the doctor tells me, there's sleep apnea. You stop breathing like 81 times a night. All it takes is a couple of more, and you don't wake up. It was interesting enough that I got those diagnoses way before this moment happens to me, but I'm still getting dressed in the morning, still going to our office that we downsized, but my thing is that we're going to get through this bubble, get through this, we're going to figure out, there's going to be another way to get to the other side. Even though I'm not passionate about it, it's the only thing I know how to do. I get up on Monday morning to go put on a suit, and I had tons of suits. That was my uniform. It's like I went to put on a pair of suits, to put on the suit, and I can't get the little hook in the pants, the slacks to hook. And I'm thinking to myself, and my mind kind of got scrambled for a minute because I'm like, it's just like, that does never happen to me. And I took the next suit down. Same thing. The next suit down, I could get it snapped, but my belly's hanging over. It's tight. And for whatever reason, I went through every single suit, ripped them out of my closet, and I can't get any of them to fit. Even the suit that I wore the Friday before. And I'm like, how did I eat myself out of my clothes? My body was so inflamed with the stress and all that kind of stuff. But it was I literally just broke into tears. I'm standing in my closet sobbing, and I felt like, I can't tell you the words I was telling myself, like, what are you doing here in your closet crying? Because you can't fit in your clothes. And I'm sure it was the pressure of all the other things that was going on. The houses, in foreclosure, the cars are being repossessed. We're talking about the financial crisis of all time for me. And all I can think about is I'm in my closet and I can't fit in my clothes. this is like the thing that breaks me, right? And I walk out of the closet, I walk into into the kitchen, and my wife looks at me and she's like, "Well, what's wrong?" And I go, I can't get into, I literally ate myself out of my freaking clothes. I can't get into my clothes. And she's like, "Is that bad?" I go, "It's like, I can't get dressed to go to work." And it's like, and I can't, it's uncomfortable. And that's when I was like going, I got to do something. And I think people this may land for some people, but in that moment in my life, there was nothing that I could control. Like the financial world was going. I mean, it was like there was only so much I could do to generate revenue from a business that just got basically shut down. I go, the only thing I can control is not dying at this point. Right? The only thing I control is not dying. So I got to get control of this. And maybe if I get control of something in my life, I can start controlling other things. And so I started looking for solutions, and I'm going through all the different things, and looking at all the different gurus out there of all these different weight loss protocols. Tried many of them for months. Ate like a bodybuilder. All I got was fatter. Did all these different things. Did all the Atkins diet. I bought the Nutrisystem's food. I mean everything, and nothing's working for me. And I'm extremely jaded. I'm frustrated. I can't seem to figure out something that works for me. And all of a sudden I stumbled across this, at the time was like a 60-year-old weight release protocol that some guy writes a book about that said it's the weight loss secret, the cure for fat loss. And I'm super skeptical, but I'm desperate. So I start Googling, where can I find this thing, this supposed thing, this protocol that you can lose a pound a day of fat. I'm like, it's got to be BS. And I find this doctor in Orange County. And my wife and I go down to this, and I understand the money's tight. And this guy go to this doctor, and he said, "Yeah, I can give you this stuff. It's a hormone you got to take. It's going to be $3,000, $29.97." And I'm like, $3,000, but he's like, "Yeah, but it'll work." And I was like, "Okay." So I look at my wife, and she's like, "If this is what you got to do, I mean, you got to do it." So I actually got the amount. I got the package, and I basically split it with my wife, because I was like, you got to do this with me, because I just know me. Like, if you decide to go eat something, I'm going to cave, and we can't afford to blow this money. So I decided to follow this protocol, and because I was so jaded and so skeptical, it's funny that my philosophy in my mind was, I'm not going to deviate one iota from this thing, so I can go back to this doctor and tell him that he's a snake oil salesman and that he's full of crap. I followed this protocol, and unbelievably, in 37 days, I released 48 pounds of fat.
Whoa.
And if people are going to stop and go on this thing like this, I literally, every day I'm getting on the scale, I'm like going, this cannot be possible, And interesting enough, I'm like, and all of a sudden I'm just noticing my blood pressure is normal. I had to stop taking my medication. The sleep apnea is gone because of the weight around when your neck is a certain size, it's one of the reasons why you have sleep apnea. So my body lost so much. Yeah, right. And, the type 2 diabetes, the A1C is now in line. I'm like, this is crazy. And so I said, okay, it's funny. I was trying to figure out other ways to make money online. And that's when they were doing the make money online, all these schemes and scams were going on. People were flashing cash and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like trying to follow the footsteps. And all I did is I'm walking out to my neighbors, and my neighbors are looking at me like what? Like, how do you look like that? And the first question they do ask you is like, are you okay? Because when you release that much weight,
oh gosh, yeah,
people think you're dying or something like that. But the difference was, I was all the time I was putting in the gym that you couldn't see because of all the inflammation and the fat. I was actually I looked like I could play football again. I was like, they were like, their mind was boggled.
Yeah.
And I would stop, and because I just wanted to share it with people, I would stop and have a 45-minute conversation trying to explain exactly where they had to go and what they had to do. And my wife goes, "Okay, I love you, baby, but you got to put this on a website or something, because we can't stop every time we're late for things." I didn't even think about that stuff. I was just thinking about, whatever. And so I go, okay, I figured out how to make a blog, and I go on YouTube, and I literally do a video and say, this is my before picture, this is my after picture. I can't sell you this stuff. I had to go to a doctor to get it. if you're like me and you tried something, everything else, and nothing ever worked for you, I just want you to know something does work. This is crazy. I can't tell it to you, but if you have any questions, here's my telephone number. And everyone's like, why are you can't put your telephone number on YouTube, man. You're gonna have all these quacks calling you. I'm like, I know, but I just want to help somebody. I want to get, I was like, that was my thing was, God, if you get me out of this, I will dedicate my life to do something for other people in a different way. And my phone started ringing and I started creating this blog and so this is kind of how the business kind of organically jumped up. So I can't get these people this hormone because they have to go to a doctor and get a prescription. And then I find out that there is a Canadian pharmacy that people could drop ship stuff to, and that the laws were if you were buying a medication, any kind of FDA approved medication for your own personal use, that you could order it and have it delivered to your house, and that was fine as long as you had a 90-day supply for your own personal use. And so I became an affiliate before I even knew what affiliate was. I became an affiliate. And I put the link to this pharmacy in my blog, and I was just obsessed with learning everything about this protocol that you could possibly know. And all of a sudden, I started. I got like this commission statement, and it said I made $2,000, and I was like, I made $2,000 just like writing a blog. And it's just crazy. And then I actually looked at the statement, and it said I sold $20,000 worth of this hormone, and I was like. Well, wait a minute. So my mind goes, if I could get rid of the middleman there,
that's like 10%, right? 10%.
I was getting 10%. Yeah, like if I get rid of the middleman, and this is how this is how God works. And I know faith is a part of your questioning. It's like I thought I spoke it. If I could get rid of the middleman, then we could have a business again. Like we could make some money doing this. And so I didn't know how to do that. And literally, because of the blog posting I was doing, I was, like I said, I was obsessed with just like literally, I got like a PhD in how this hormone works, right? And now I became the number one guy in the world who knows how to use it. But the point was, back then, I was just every time somebody asked me a question, if I didn't know the answer, I'd go research it and find it, or I'd experiment on myself. And all of a sudden, I have this other pharmacy from overseas reached out to me and said, "Sir, I see that you're becoming this expert in this hormone, ATG. We can drop ship it for you if you wanted to." And the price was like now a tenth of what I paid this doctor for. And my thing was, how can I get this into the average folks, right? So I'm thinking about my people. Most people cannot afford $3,000.
No way.
And so I go, and then I saw the actual price of the hormone itself, and I was like, this is big. I mean, this is crazy. And I won't get into the whole big pharma thing because big pharma they try to ban it because they can't make money on it, right? Yet I believe it is probably the best, safest weight release process protocol on the planet, bar none. So I answer their email. I get in contact with the guy. We have a conversation. We make a deal. And I said, okay, you'll drop ship it to people. I'll create a website, and then I'll get all the other stuff they need, all the other supplies together, and we'll package up these little packages. You drop ship the hormone. I'll drop ship the packages. And my wife and I, out of our house that was going in foreclosure, that I kept fighting the bank off and off and off and off. I ended up fighting that bank off for 5 years, by the way. We built that bank. But I mean, in our house, we were just packaging up packages and shipping them out. And I remember going, if we could just make like $500 a day, I think we would be back to, like, it just give me hope that there's something that I can do other than mortgages, because that's all I've ever done. And we hit that number. Then it was $1,000 a day, and then it just kept going and going. And that was like we went, oh my God, we just figured out a way to come back. And that was from like 2010. I think we launched the site, and then by 2013, all of a sudden we're getting customers are coming to our website and go, hey, we can't check out, man. We can't check out your website. We can't check out your website. I'm like, well, what do you mean can't check out? I go to the website and the merchant account shut down. I'm like, what happened?
Wow, the bank shut down.
I called the merchant account, and they're like, yeah, I'm sorry, but your brand and your product violates our terms of service, and so we're shutting you down. Now, we had just come out of a big holiday sale. There's like $180,000 in sales that are due to be paid out seized. We had what we called like you had your reserve account that we didn't even think about. It was like they keep 10% of your sales in a reserve account, and after 6 months, they're supposed to give it to you. But if you don't ask for it, they keep it. Where there's another $300 and something thousand in the reserve account. So now there's almost a $500,000 in the bank's account, and they said we'll hold it we're going to hold it for 6 months, and they will release it to you. And I'm like devastated, but I'm thinking, well, we got to survive for 6 months. And we can make it happen. So, and back then you didn't have like the Zells and the it was like we were like, once again, the bottom comes out, right? Just barely coming out of foreclosure, just got our mortgage redone, just to go right back into it. So my nervous system is all over the place, and I'm asking like, why God? Like what? I mean, we just pulled this out. What are you pulling this back in for? And we borrow from our friends. We borrow. We survived in 6 months. We're borrowing the mortgage payment. We're thinking we just got to make it hang on for 6 months. 6 months comes. 6 months to the day, I reach out to the bank and said, "Hey, it's been 6 months. Can we get us our money?" And said, "No, actually, yeah." They gave us $40,000 and said the rest of it they were going to keep for penalties for damaging the MasterCard brand.
What?
I can't. All of it. We got what? $40,000, just enough to pay off the people that we borrowed money from, and that knocked me to my knees.
Oh God!
That knocked me because I didn't. That's when I realized that. Oh man, these guys have the power to hurt you really bad. Like because I had no way to fight them. Like was it legal? Was it right? But when I went to attorneys, they're like, by the time you pay me. And by the time, even if we took it on contingency, by the time that we get your money back, you're going to owe us most of it anyway in attorney fees. And I got to tell you that I was angry and bitter for a couple of years, and that anger and bitterness probably kept us from really bouncing back faster because I was just waddling in the injustice, the injustice of it all, and but still pushing through because that's what I do, right? I mean, I got a family to feed, I got to take care of. So we ended up getting like another merchant account from overseas. It was a lot more expensive. It took a lot longer to get paid, but we were able to kind of tread the water and still do what we did. And we just went on with that. And I think then is when we started making money again. We came out of it. Then after a couple of years, we started getting all these different apps. You had PayPal, other things that we could start using. Subsequently, they all ended up getting shut down, but there was always like the next one we could put in place. And so we scaled back up, but we were always waiting for the next shoe to drop, And this is when my beautiful, amazing wife, because all during the house thinking we're losing the house and everything. And my wife looked at me and said, "You know what? I just want you to understand. I don't need this stuff. I don't need this house. I don't need the cars. I just need you to be alive and to just be with me, right?" Which for a man who thinks that he's got everything on his shoulders and is putting everything on his shoulders, for his spouse to let you know that it's not about the money, it's not about the lifestyle. I ain't going anywhere. So you and I got to be in a pine box with Kim. We have one son left in the house. Then young son left in the house. Like we got to do, right? And I remember having to empty the Sparkless bottle. I used to put all my change in the Sparkless bottle, like the big Sparkless bottle. I remember one day having to take that bottle to Ralph's and throw it in the coin thing to pull the cash out to get groceries. And so when I say I've felt the bowels of what financial ruin can feel like, and how important having an amazing partner and having God in your life is, because God and I have an interesting relationship. Like I went to God on a 411 I went to God on a 911 all the time.
911, yeah.
911. God, okay, can you help me out? God, I'm in this room. God, can you please come through for me? I really went to God on a 411. And so my relationship with God was pretty much, I didn't trust the masculine. I didn't really trust my father, so I don't really think I trusted God. But he always came through for me, even though I didn't think he was coming through for me. He always came through for me. Yeah, right. So, and then my wife said one more brilliant thing that took all the pressure, and I hope this lands on some other brother out there that maybe doing the grind. She said, these businesses are not our businesses. These are God's businesses. Our job is just to steward these businesses. Therefore, they're going to be and do whatever. You are not doing you're not doing it all. Like, you think you're the one that's building it. You're the one that's creating it. You're the one that's bringing all these customers or not bringing these customers. It's not about you. All we got to do is suit up, show up, live heart-centered, and let God take care of the details. The day she said that to me, that landed in my soul.
Yeah.
I no longer had the pressure of being the guy that had to do the thing.
So cool.
Yeah. So cool. So I don't know if we're gonna keep going or you want me to pause?
Yeah, no, yeah, because we gotta get to now. Like, you like 1990s still not. All
right, no. So now we're in the mid 2000s.
Okay, yeah.
We're doing. So now we got, we still got the house, but in 2017 we put the house in the market. In our mind, we got a buddy of mine to sell the house for us. He wasn't real well versed. He lived in Orange County. He wasn't really well versed in the South Bay, but he was our buddy. We thought we'd save some money. He felt like he knew what he was doing. We put the house on the market for $5 million. We're thinking about, the money we owe the bank. They got rid of the second, so we're calculating that we're going to walk away with $1 million in cash in this house after fighting the bank for 5 years. They finally gave in, and we won the battle, which that was a whole thing by itself.
Yeah,
being one guy fighting an entire conglomerate of banks. But it was like, we think we're going to sell the house, and it's the wrong timing, the wrong price, and the house just sits and sits and sits and sits. So we ended up selling the house in 2017 on a short sale.
Oh, gosh.
We literally walked away with nothing. Like we got a refund from our homeowners insurance policy was the check that we walked away from. And it felt like someone had lifted an anvil off of my
I bet,
shoulder. Yeah, because for all those years where we weren't paying the mortgage, I felt like an imposter. I couldn't even look my neighbors in the face. If I'd be on the balcony, trying to take in the ocean view, and they'd walk out of their house, I'd walk in my house because I was so ashamed for looking like I'm posing, living in this, $4+ whatever $1 million house, and we're barely, we got enough money to, to pay to live, but I still owe this bank money. Mm-hmm. And so when we finally sold the house and walked away from it, and it was like literally the most liberating thing in my life. It's like once we got over the fact we're not making any money on it, it was like, yeah, but we don't have this anvil around our neck. Now, what do you want to create now? What do you want to create now? So we actually, moved to Orange County by the invitation of the same friends that sold our house. Didn't jive. We stayed there for 2 years, didn't jive for us, and then we moved back to the beach. And it was like, and this is where I think life really started. It was right before COVID, literally moved right before COVID happened. And we got this little condo on the beach, and it had this beautiful ocean view. It had a big pane window, and it was right across the street from the beach in Redondo Beach. And I could look every morning. I woke up, I would have my cup of coffee. I'd look out the window, I'd see the dolphins, and I would just have "Thank you, God" in my heart. Thank you, God in my heart. Yeah. And it's like that gratitude that I just felt every day for being alive. We just had a small little place. It's just the two of us. The kids are doing okay. The business is doing okay. And I'm just waking up with gratitude. I started doing what's called my 3-page letter to God. I started that in Orange County. I'm going to tell this story because I think it's important. I used to love Ed Milet. Was like, I listened to his podcast all the time. And, I said that, my relationship with God was more on a 911 than a 411. And so I had this Bible I've had for 20 years. And every time I opened the Bible and tried to read the Bible, I just felt stupid. I didn't understand it. Right. And so I would read it in the thous, whatever. And I couldn't understand what it was saying to me. And he has Tim Story on his podcast, and then Tim Story is talking there, and he says in scripture, he who works his land shall prosper. And he started giving examples like a mother raising her child as she's working her land. A man running his business, he's working his land. He goes and he said, it doesn't say you will or you can prosper. It says he who works his land shall prosper. And I was like, he just spoke to me like I understood what he said. He just translated a verse in the Bible that actually I understood. And so I'm sitting there in Orange County at my dining room table, and he would have a Sunday sermon. And I said, I'm just going to turn on this guy's sermon because his church wasn't very far from us in Orange County.
Yeah, no.
I said, let me just check out his sermon first, right? Like before I go physically into his thing. And I'm listening to this sermon, and he gets to the end, and he said, I just want you to close your eyes for a minute. gonna make me choked up. I want you to close your eyes for a minute. And he said, close your eyes. He said, and all he said, God will fix your finances. God will fix your health. God will fix your relationship. And it was like one other thing. Now at the time, which I kind of skipped over, is that I had broken my back. And in the gym, I'd injured my back. I thought I just tweaked it. And ended up 3 weeks later having really bad sciatica pain. And the next thing you know, my left leg is dragging. I go to the orthopedist. He's like, you got a really severe herniated disc. If you were an NFL player, you'd have been in surgery, in 2 days. You've been walking around for almost a month like this. You got to get into surgery. He wanted me to go to a certain surgeon. I had a PPO, an insurance company, that I had to use the surgeon from the actual insurance company.
Yeah.
Had the surgery, walked out of the hospital, felt great. I was like, oh, thank you. It felt great. 24 hours later, I got up to get out of bed to go to the bathroom. My back buckles and I fall to the ground and I can't stand up. And I called my wife. I'm like, I can't stand up. And so she got me out there, but I was kind of bent over, and we called the doctor. He's like, you're a husky guy. You're muscular. Just give yourself a couple of days, weeks. You just came out of surgery. 2 weeks go by, and I'm trying to get back into him and say, this is I can't. The pain is so bad. I can't stand up. Finally, my wife, I tell you, I married an angel. She goes, I'm taking you to the emergency room, because if you go to the emergency room, they can't deny seeing you. And the doctor's got to come and take a look at you. She takes me to the emergency room. They do a MRI. They see like a little pocket, like a little pocket on the scan. They think it could be water. Is it water? Is it an infection or something? Because it doesn't make sense to have all this nerve pain that I was having. And he goes in there and finds out that the vertebrae right before where he did the surgery had broken. And they come to find out that I had a L4, L5 injury, and he did surgery on L3, 4. Okay. And he shaved it to where the vertebrae breaks. And that's why I couldn't stand up, because the vertebrae was basically banging against each other. And when I get out of surgery, he goes, yeah, we figured it out. Somehow you broke the vertebrae. So I had to fuse you at L3, 4. And I didn't know what that really meant, but I was like, okay, as long as can I walk, right? Can I be fine? Walked out, got out of surgery. Still, I didn't have the immediate pain that I had, but I still had this limp in my leg. And he said, it's going to take about 18 months for the nerve to come back. It may not be permanent at this point, but you're going to have to wait 18 months. So I waited 18 months, and that's the 18th month I had gone to Orange. That's when we moved to Orange County, because the other happened with her in Hermosa. And so I'm sitting there listening to Tim's story. I'm still in pain now, coming out of surgery. And I ended up having 7 back surgeries, just, in a 6-year period of time, 7 back surgeries. But this is where he says that. And all of a sudden I hear him say that. And he said, close your eyes. And I hear God say, I'm going to heal your body. I'm going to heal your finances. I'm going to heal your marriage. Because my wife and I were like, the pressure, all the pressure, we were not on divorce court, but we were not really connected. And I just start sobbing. It was like it's something that spoke to my soul. And I just started sobbing. And my wife walks in again, and she's like, what's going on? I go, this is going to sound really crazy, but I think God just spoke to me. And I told her what he said. And I just had left. I had just been with a client of mine, and we went to a seminar in Arizona. And she kept telling me about, because she was sober for like years, and she kept saying she writes these 3-page letters to God. And I was like going, well, how do you, can you tell me more about that? And she goes, yeah, I get up in the morning and I have 3 categories. I write gratitude. I got, what am I willing to give up? Behaviors, belief systems. And I co-create with God. I build my dreams. And I go, that sounds good, but I can't read my own writing. I go to seminars. I take notes that I never look at them. I can't read my own writing. And she had an old lady there that, like, her name is B, I think. And she was her sponsor. And she goes, when are you going to give up that story? And I was like, huh? I go, you don't understand. I really cannot read my own writing. I said, I should have been a doctor because I cannot read my own writing. And she goes, yeah, when are you going to give up that story? And after I got that message, I got a notepad, and I just started writing. And I'm just sobbing because I'm hearing, like, I'm writing and I'm hearing, like, literally, like, scripture in my head that I have read, that I've never read in the Bible, or at least I remember reading in the Bible. And I'm writing the scriptures down. And I'm like going, and so I'm writing. And the first couple of days, I could read part of it. And so all of a sudden, every morning now, I'm going to write this 3-page letter to God. I started this practice. And so that's by day 3, day 4, I look at it and I actually can read what I'm writing. Like my handwriting literally changed to where I could read what I was writing. I still do that practice to this day. Every morning I get up at 5:40 a.m. and I sit down, I write a 3-page letter to God. And the reason why I'm sharing that, because everything that I've written in those, because so we see, I have my gratitude, I have things I'm going to give up, such behaviors, thoughts, limiting beliefs, even if I didn't show up for myself most powerful way the day before, I get to give up that behavior and then co-create. The car that's in my garage is inside those notes. This house that we live on, the 6,500 square foot house we live on the beach here in Oxnard Shores, was on the beach, are in these letters to God. I have journals up here, if I could show you, they're all stacked of every day since 2018 and 2019, I've written a 3-page letter to God. And everything that I put, all my co-creations that I put in there have primarily manifested themselves in my life. Okay. So we fast forward to now. I had my last back surgery 2 years ago. I had two disc replacements. I still have a limp in my leg because unfortunately I did end up having permanent. I don't like to speak that. I'm not going to speak that of myself. I still have limited nerve impingement in my left leg that shows itself as a limp currently. But I'm able. So this business that I've built, right? As I was going through the back surgeries, if you see my pictures with the steroids and all the different pain pills and medications, my body blew back like I looked like I did when I first started this journey. And I decided that I needed some motivation to get back in shape. And so at the time, when we were in Orange County, I saw this guy in the gym and he was just shredded. And I go, I want to look like that guy. And now this is the guy that I've had probably on my 4th back surgery or 5th back surgery right now. So it's not my last one, but I go, I got to do something to get myself back in shape. I'm coaching. You can tell my face feels like I look like a pumpkin, because if you're on prednisone for any long period of time, you see what happens to people's bodies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I see this guy and I walked up and I said, excuse me. I said, you could tell he competes and stuff. I go, do you train or coach people? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, here's my number. Come to my office, whatever, Friday, and we can talk about it. And I said, I want to look like you again. I said, I told my story, my back story, all my back problems. And I said, I can't be in this body any longer. It's incongruent with who I am. I'm coaching people on how to, and I said, and to me, it's not really about weight. It's like I have all this inflammation in my body. And he says, are you willing to compete? I said, no, I can't do that. I can't get on a stage. And he said, well, I really can't coach you. And I go, why? He goes, your why is not big. I understand you want to get back into your body, but that's your ego. You got to have something beyond yourself that scares the crap out of you that you're willing to do. And the fact that you said no so quickly tells me that's where you got to go. So if you decide you want to do that, I can work with you. I drive home and I go to the NPC site for the competitor site, and I start looking around. I realize there's this master's division, like for over 50 people. I'm 59 right at the point in time. And I go, how bad do you want this? And so I sign up for it. It was like 16 weeks away. I sign up for this 16 weeks competition. I text him the enrollment thing that, okay, I signed up. He said, now we can get to work.
Wow.
And lo and behold, almost 16 weeks to the day, I remember I even did my social media, because I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to do something big, so I can't back out of it, I tell the world.
You tell everybody, exactly.
I tell everybody. So they saw me. I said, I'm doing 16 weeks to Shredsville. I'm going to take this body, this 42-inch waist, now all of this inflamed body, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to go and compete on this count. I don't care. All I got to do is make the stage. That's my only goal, is to make the stage. And so I go in there. I'm doing 2-a-day trains. I follow his regimen to the letter, and we're like 1 month out of competition time. And the last month, I don't know if you've ever talked to competitors, but you have to go into the real cutting phase, and then you have to do all these different things. And I've never done this before. You have to have posing coaches and all that kind of stuff. And I hired a posing coach because my guy disappears.
No way.
He disappears. He's from Brazil, and he got some kind of marital spout with his wife, and he left the country and went back to Brazil. And I'm now in the last 30 days of my competition.
And you don't have your coach.
And I got nobody. I got my coach. I got nothing. And I'm like, I could quit. I mean, I'm in pretty good shape now. And when I go, no, I've already told everybody that follows me, I told them I'm doing this thing.
They're all going to show up to watch
it. Can't back out.
Right? Yeah.
I can't back out. So I go down to this thing. My wife comes with me. My two friends come with me, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm really going to invest shape of my life. But I mean, I'm not even prepared. Like, you're supposed to bring candy bars and all this kind of stuff. You're supposed to pump up at a certain time. And luckily, like, these competitors who pity on me, they could tell I was just lost. And a couple of guys that gave me their candy bars, and they coached me through it. Get on stage, I do my thing. And I don't know if you can see it, but I got 2 trophies back there. One was 3rd place and then 5th place overall. But they popped me into competing even with the 30-year-olds. So I did the 3rd place for over 50, for 50 and 45 and up. And then I got 5th place overall competing with the 30-year-olds, right? And I was the oldest person in the competition by almost 20 years, or almost 15 years. And to me, that was just like, I didn't care about the trophies, but it was like, I said I was going to do something, and I got my body into a level of fitness that I had not seen probably for quite some time, even though I was in really good shape for most since I learned this protocol. But it was kind of my way of going, I could do anything. Like, I can accomplish anything. And so that took the brand to a whole nother level, because when you compete, all of a sudden I started getting people reaching out to me like, hey, how do you do that? I want to do that too. And so what we did to get into what we do for a living really now, I kind of glossed over this protocol, right? So we show people how to utilize this hormone to basically put their body back into homeostasis, to get rid of the inflammation, to reverse a lot of the medical problems that come from obesity or severe inflammation, and get them back to baseline, and then transition them into the next level. Okay, so basically what we did is that we also realized, though, too, because I've been coaching people in the space for quite some time, and they would lose the weight, and I'm going to say lose the weight, but whatever you lose, your program to find. So they would find the weight back 6 months, a year later, what have you. And then we decided that we're not here to lose weight, we're here to release the weight. And to release the weight, we have to also release the emotional trauma, the limiting beliefs that's stuck in your fat cells. I have now witnessed that a lot of times people think it's about the food they eat, but it's really how you feel about the food you eat. Because everybody has a person that they know that can eat anything they want. And they go, they just have, what do you think the difference is between them and you? They must have a fast metabolism. They're just skinny, whatever. My belief, and what I think I've proven with the clients I've worked with, is that if you have your friend Sally that is inviting you to, she's, I want you to go to my pizza. This is the best pizza I've ever had. I love this pizza. I eat it every week. And you have someone who has a weight problem that thinks pizza is probably not the thing I should be eating if I'm wanting to get healthy or lose my weight. So when you and Sally go into the pizza restaurant, or you and Jim go into the pizza restaurant, you sit down and this is like for men. Let's say you and your buddy Jim go. Jim's fit, and you think he's just because he's got great metabolism, he works out all the time, and you have a little bit of weight on you, and you both sit down and have the pizza. But this is Jim's favorite pizza place. So when Jim orders his pizza, he's ordering his favorite pizza with all the toppings on it. You're like, yeah, I'll have whatever he's having, or I'll have whatever. When Jim sits down and eats his pizza and he bites into it, he turns and he's like, oh my God, is this like the best pizza you've ever had? Like, oh my God, it's the best pizza. Jim just loves the pizza. He's not making stories about it like, I shouldn't eat this pizza. If I eat this pizza, it's going to make me fat. If you start attaching shame and ridicule and judgment to the food you're eating, what do you think it does in your body? Where do you think it goes? Jim's going, I love pizza. And his body goes, I love the pizza too. I know exactly what to do with it. I'll take whatever nutrients I need, and I'll get rid of whatever I don't. You over here going judgment, shame, ridicule, and judgment, shame, in my opinion, it stores as fat. So when I talk to people and I coach people, I go, you think it's about the food. Now, granted, we live in a society that our food quality is not very great. There's a lot of inflammatory things in our foods that I would tell you to stay away from at all costs. And how you feel about the food and what you were raised with make a difference. And so what we teach people to do is play the outside game, which is the protocol, follow the protocol. The protocol works, and playing the inside game. How do you feel and pay attention to what you're feeling, not just when you're eating, but when you're not eating, when you're going to the glass of wine at night, or when you're going to the refrigerator, what's going on? What emotion is present in your body? Most people are not cognizant of the actual conscious thoughts that they're having. The subconscious mind is running the show. And so what happens is they find themselves feeling stressed or feeling angry or feeling sad. They don't want to feel those emotions, so they distract with something. It could be video games, it could be TV, it could be the ice cream in the refrigerator, it could be the glass of wine every night. So what we do basically in our coaching business is that we hold you in what we call the greenhouse, in a container where we watch you and you check in every day, and your life goes through the same thing it always goes through, but then we start paying attention to what are you feeling. So every one of my clients, I don't care if you're a top executive or stay-at-home mom, every one of our clients starts their day coming into our greenhouse going, what feelings in your body, where is it located, what size is it, and what color is it? Because it shows up, and then we want to show you how to. Then want you to move that energy through your body, because emotions are just energy emotions. Feelings are what we made those emotions mean, made those incidences mean. So every time we're going through an emotional state, it's usually a memory of something you went through before between 1 and 7. So that's what we started teaching people how to do. So be really, really present with what their feelings, and we started realizing that people started releasing weight faster, because emotional weight in the body and physical weight, they both take up much the same amount of space. You could be a man that's supposed to be, 6 foot and say 195 pounds. But if you're holding sadness, grief, shame, guilt, anger that you're not allowing your body to express, when the body is a finite container, when you don't give it space to move the energy, what does it have to do? It's got to expand and expand and expand and expand. So people start to realize that the body they're looking at is part of it is abnormal fat stores and visceral fat. We want to get rid of it. A lot of it's emotional weight that you don't know how to get rid of, and that's what we do. So that's kind of what takes you full circle to kind of how we've gotten to where we are, and we do. And so what I do is I help them get their BMI back under normal, get their body back in homeostasis with our protocol. And then we just opened up our telemedicine division to where now we can take people onto peptides and hormones and keep them balanced, because most of my clients are, 40 and up, right? So I have, as old as 71-year-olds in my program, and as young as 35-year-olds in my program. And that's kind of how we do what we do, if that makes sense. But that's, there's probably so many nuances of the story that I've skipped over, because I've had a lot of life. But I got to tell you that first day of putting my telephone number on the internet saying, I can't sell this stuff to you, but I can help you with it, to now being able to not only allow you to get access to it at a great rate, to now coach people all over the world on how to actually release weight permanently, to kind of fast forward from building a brand out of nothing, other than a desire to kind of help people get the same results that I did, has changed my life, but it's also allowed us to change thousands of lives in the process.
Wow. That's so cool. Thank you for your story. I mean, it was, yeah. I was tired. I was on the edge of my seat. I was seeing myself in a lot of the things that have been you, even when you talked about Ed Milet, I was in an office with Ed Milet from 2000 to 2009. I saw him every day. Every day. Yeah. But then I've had 2 back surgeries. I haven't had 7, but I've had 2. So I know what it feels like when they do the surgery and then it don't work, and then oh man. But I guess the one thing I'll ask, and then we're gonna have to extend this on another time, because I want more of what you're doing. But your identity, because one of the things that has been constant, no matter how far you go down, you still are able to pick back up. And that's something that seems to be like a trait with folks that are super successful. What would you say to the person who, I guess, they go down and then they can't find a way to pick themselves up? What kind of advice, or what kind of, because I don't know what that is, because I'm the same way, like 2000, I was in the mortgage business, 2008 happened. It really happened. And I paid employees for 6 more months afterwards and didn't continue to do it. But I'm good, right? I mean, it's like, I just got back up and say, okay, this is just a blip. But then there's other people I know that are still reeling from 2008. Like, we could talk about it as something that happened, but it happened. But they're like, it devastated me to the point. So what would be your thought, as you're coaching all kind of people, so you got to have some kind of.
Number one, I think the number one belief that I actually absolutely believe 100% is that life happens for me, not to me. So if I look at it that way, I know that whatever I'm moving through, even though it doesn't feel comfortable right now, there's a reason for this, and there's something better coming for me, coming ready to open up for me. So if a door closed for me, I know another one's being wide open. Now, it took me having to see it happen over and over again to believe that. So if I had to tell somebody, if I tell my son or somebody that's younger than I am, or even somebody that's been knocked down, that just know that the knockdown was intentional, and it's to get your attention, and you get to open your eyes and open your heart and go, okay, lead me to where you want me to go. And every time I've been willing to do that, to actually get out of my own way and say, just tell me where you could listen. I mean, think about it. I went from mortgage broker to fitness guy. Even though I married a fitness instructor, right? But it's like, that was like not the thing that I was even thinking I'd be doing. So you never know what direction the world's going to put you in. So I just know that anything that happens to me is that it's happening for me, not to me. And that knowing and belief system knows that, oh, okay, so this is just God steering me in the direction that's not for my highest good. And I think that allows me to be open to the next thing coming, if that makes sense.
Yes. Well, congratulations for, turning your body around and turning it all around. I mean, because that's, you don't look like you're in your 60s, right? Because you don't feel like you're in your 60s. You don't feel like you feel better now than you did in your 40s. And
I look much better than I did in my 40s.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to say, I just turned 60 last month. And I'm like, I feel better now than I felt in years and years. And I can't wait for the rest of my life to continue. So I want to I would love to have you come back, and we're going to do a part 2 that we can do.
Wow,
I'll have my assistant schedule it. But I want to make sure here you tell people how to get a hold of you, how to get a hold of the things that you're doing, how to be able to follow some. Have you written a book yet? Because if you haven't, there's a whole shelf. I don't know if I'm pointing the right direction.
Yeah.
There's a whole shelf that you've written a book. I need to read it. So we need to get you in the book protocol if you haven't written it already.
Well, I did write the book about the protocol called Ace is Your Body for Life. So that is the book that show people how to do this protocol. Yeah. And I do have a book in the works right now about the story that I just broke down.
That's what I'm. Well, the fact that you've written a letter to God every day for the last 7 years. Yeah. And what God has done through you as a result, that book itself is that, oh my gosh.
I don't know. If anybody gets anything from this podcast, if that's the one thing they sat down and did, and don't make it complicated. Just sit down and describe what you're grateful for, anything you're willing to give up, and just dream like you're a 5-year-old kid. Don't put a governor on what's possible for you. Yeah, I would love them to walk away with that.
Yeah. What's so cool about today? I mean, I know there's an art of when you write and the way that it transfers, but I was a special ed kid that said that I wasn't going to be able to rewrite that kind of stuff. And so now I've written 3 books, but every single book that I've written is I'm speaking to the computer. So I'm able to take my thoughts and then put them into a spot where now the whatever the AI, whatever the computer stuff is, can now take it and make it legible for people. And so I think about what a great thing. I could literally talk, if I'm not a good writer and it slows down your brain to write. So I think there's some really good things in that. But if that's something that hinders you from writing it, I'd rather you write it and use the technology than not write it at all because you're worried about writing, right?
Absolutely. The technology now is made it available for anybody to take their soul story and put it out to the world without having to be able to type or write. And so trust me, I'm using that technology to this day to make it happen. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What does typing have to do with the stuff that goes in your brain and on paper? Yeah. People tell you all day, well, I said it at a typewriter. Well, good for you.
Not me.
A fine motor skill to be able to do it. I got other stuff with my life. So cool. So tell us how to get a hold of you, how to get a hold of you.
Our brand is Soul Body Mind. So it's soulbodymindfitness.com. That's because we cover everything, the soul, the body, and the mind, right? And then our telemedicine division is soulbodymindfit.com. So if they go to any one of those things, they can reach out to us. They can, I'm happy to talk to anybody. Like I said, my goal is if I can just point you in the right direction. I love that you did your series about reversing diabetes, especially around our people. it is like my family died from that disease, right? Early. And so that's one of the main reasons why I'm in doing what I do, is to tell people that this, like you talked about 60s, these are the best years of our life. And we're designed to live to be well over 100. And it's never too late to start reversing those things now. So absolutely. Yeah. So soulbodymindfit.com or soulbodymindfitness.com. I'll be here to help you guys if you have any questions. It'd be great. And thank you so much, Dr. B, for this platform. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And thank you for being on. And again, the website is Soul Body Mind. You need to go to it. Soulbodymindfit.com.
Soulbodymindfitness.com.
The company is Soul Body Mind and soulbodymindfit.com.
Fitness.com.
Fitness. Yeah. Absolutely. Get on there. We'll put the links on. He's going to come back, so just got to hang on. That's the suspense that I'm putting out here right now. I'm telling you, I'm going to have Colin Watson back on our podcast, and we're just going to chop it up some more because there's so many gems. I hope you go back and listen to his story, because there's so many things that we could follow that could change your life, especially if you're going through something right now. Because he gave you example after example after example when things didn't go right, but God was still working on him. Things didn't go the way that he expected to, but God had showed him a way. Still went through this great life that he had to lose it, and came back. And now he's in a better place than he's ever been in his life. And there's so many clues and paths. I mean, Tony Robbins talks about success leads clues all the time. And there are so many clues in this journey. And so thank you for being on. Go ahead and hit subscribe and notifications and all those things. You're going to need to put notification if you're going to know when we're going to talk about this again. We'll get this out, so that and we're going to have a conversation. And I can't wait to see more. I can't wait to come out to California. I'm coming over your house. So I'm out there at the end of July. We're going to go sit out and look at the beach together. I just invited myself, so it doesn't matter.
I love that. I love that.
It's going to be so cool. To spend some time, because I know I have a friend not only in the God, but I have a friend that helps other folks make a difference. Hey, so if you are ready to let you know that God, you're God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And my goal is that you allow him to love you in a way that you can achieve and do the things that you were put on this earth to do, because you deserve it. And so we'll talk to you on the next one. Have this amazing, incredible day today, and we'll see you on the next.